Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging hour discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Kuchera, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome in. Good afternoon. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you so much for joining us today. However you are joining us, before I invite my guest in and introduce him, let me go through a couple of things with you. We're with you 5 days a week. We are the only 5-day-a-week live real estate show in the Bay Area. Proud to be on the air now for almost 8 years. The focus has always been the same, education and information. We'll continue to bring that to you, to consumer. Monday through Friday, 3 to 4, Pacific Daylight Time. You could tune in, listen to us at KDOW 1220 AM. If you're not near a radio or you're online or anywhere else where you can't get the signal, you can go online and go to kdow.biz. That will allow you to listen to the show live. Just click on the button, listen live. You can listen to the show anywhere in the world, as long as it's this time of the day, of course, on the live show. We're streaming live on Facebook. Thank you for those that are following us. We appreciate that. We continue to get the growth and a lot of feedback and a lot of views, and I really want to just take a second here to thank everyone for continuing to contribute to the show, the listenership. I get wonderful emails, calls on a regular basis, and it's always the same. Someone either learned something or we helped them with something, or they learned a lot from a guest, and so we want to continue doing that for sure. Lastly, make sure you download the podcast. This is, of course, for the convenience. If you can't listen to the live show or follow us during that time period, we want to be able to have you track the show, listen to the show at your convenience. You could go to iTunes, type in Real Estate Radio Live. You could download it there. You could go to our website, reradiolive.com. Anywhere you could really find it just by typing in Real Estate Radio Live. All right, and during the show, lastly, before I get started, if you want to contact us, if you have any questions for me or my guests during the show, the number is always the same during the show. That's 1-800-516-1220. All right, let me invite my guest in, Mr. Dave Rossi. He is an achievement coach. And before we get started, someone might be listening to the show going, achievement coach? Aren't we talking real estate today? Well, that's right. So if you've been following the show, you know me, and what I mean by that, or you have a better idea, that I'm a big believer of, when I say anything and everything real estate, there's a lot of things that go into real estate that really is an element of our personal life, the decisions we make. They're very emotional, especially in housing. We talk about that all the time. And so Dave's here really to kind of guide us through, help us through, talk to us, share with us, educate us on how we deal with the emotions on buying a home, a big decision. You know, what if you can't agree? And we'll talk finances and a lot. So I'm excited about it. Welcome in, Dave. Good to have you.
Joe, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, looking forward to this. Before we get started, maybe give the listeners a little bit about your background and then kind of how you evolved into this now, and we'll get started.
Well, I'm sure for most of your listeners, I was probably mostly like them. I was a consumer. I bought houses. I sold houses. I had a construction business, commercial construction. Mm-hmm. And wanted to achieve things, and had a lot of success in my life and had a lot of failures. And I think during some of the failures, I kind of reevaluated what those meant and what those meant into my life, and kind of found a new path. I call myself an achievement coach because there's so much to achieve, and there's so many ways to achieve it. And I found and picked up so many amazing tips and practical applications to ideas that I used in my life to become successful again, and do it a different way, do it with a lot more happiness and a lot more kindness, and want to share that basically.
Yeah, and giving back, which all of us know, even on small scales, it's amazing, isn't it, when you even take time to, away from your day, your week, your month, whatever, whenever you give back in any way at all, let's face it, most of us would agree that, boy, that felt good.
I think for me, when I made my transformation, and it was big, I mean, we're talking about a total reset.
Yeah.
I think I lost 50 pounds of weight. I reevaluated my marital status and situation. I reevaluated what real estate I owned, had to sell a lot of real estate. I sold a property overseas. out of the country, sold my business. When you get to that stage to dig down deep and realize what you have to do to be happy, you really want to share it with people.
Yeah.
And I've studied and researched, and people basically pushed me into this because they heard me give so much advice and information of what I'd learned, and they saw how it worked. And they said, it's unbelievable the courage that you had to do these things. Yeah. And I look back now and didn't see it as courage. I saw it as a requirement, as a survival requirement. But when you get there, certainly what you want to do is share it, and you want to help people. And there is absolutely no pretense or selfishness in the desire to help people learn these things.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Well, let's set the stage, Dave, if you can, for the listenership. I always say let's make it as simple as possible. Talk a little bit about. I mean, some people may think about it, some don't. Maybe you could walk them through it. Set the stage, kind of the emotions in general that people deal with when they're about ready to or deciding to make a big decision. And sometimes when it's around the idea of debt, financing, oh my God, it's easy for people to say the dream home, right? I mean, that gets the emotional side of. So maybe set the stage, talk a little bit about the emotional side of that, the reality, the non-emotional, and maybe how we could, dive into this conversation and how people usually approach these things.
Well, I think for most people, I kind of use Tiger Woods as an example.
Okay.
You yourself get in the way of yourself.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, emotion is that thing that blocks them and prevents them from actually achieving what they want to achieve. And if you use Tiger Woods as an example, here's someone that has all the success and probably had it by not overthinking. And then when he got into a situation where thought became the prevalent, mind activity, he began to not play as well. I think for most really successful artists and musicians and athletes, that happens. The greatness happens. For a lot of people, when they walk or when they shower, they have all these great ideas, and it's because their mind begins to slow down and reality kind of comes to the surface. I think when buying a house and when dealing with emotion, and also just kind of what I said, people's egos and I don't mean ego in terms of a big ego,
Sure,
or someone in midlife crisis, driving a red convertible. Right. I mean, in anywhere along that line of low self-esteem or high self-esteem, your ego knows yourself by what you have or by what you do or by what others think of you.
Okay.
And when you begin to know yourself as these things, if one of those things doesn't match what you want, it creates fear. And I don't mean fear in a sense that you're afraid of being hurt or in danger, but if you don't have this big house, fear gets to be created. I know myself as an individual as being successful by the size of the house I have, or the size of the house I don't have, or the car I drive, or the job I have. And when your ego gets involved, typically it revolves around fear. I have to have this. I want to have this. It's really important for me to have this. It's not that you can't want these things. It's great to want those things. And it's not that you can't extremely desire these things. That's called the desire to increase your life situation. But the second these things begin to drive your identity and your happiness, I mean, in this market, if there's 20 bids on a house and you're one of 20 and you don't get it, why be upset? I mean, this is an extremely competitive market. Why would you have any emotion, negative emotion, when there's 20 buyers and there's lots of millionaires in this valley with lots and lots of money that can buy out or beat anybody out on a house? Why would you have any personal defeat and negative emotion related to that? And that's the kind of stuff I'd help people kind of sort through. It's not as simple as what we're saying, but that's kind of the overview of what I want to teach people.
No, I know, and it's great too, because I think with most people, if you're just hearing this for the first time, some people might say, well, Dave, of course it's emotional. And so it's not that you're per se, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth, saying, no, you're not emotional, it's not emotional, but a different way of thinking of it. And if you did the best you could and the market dictated that you didn't get that house, that had nothing to do with you making a bad decision or you doing something wrong.
Exactly. Exactly. I think the thing that I'm trying to separate and give attention to is how it affects your behavior and how it affects your self-worth and who you are.
Yeah.
Sadness is actually a good emotion. Sadness tells you what's important. You can be sad that you didn't get what you want. But when it comes to emotion, you want to feel the emotion. You want to understand what the emotion is. You just don't want to react to it.
Right.
I use an example a lot. When people feel emotion, they think it's reality. I feel scared, and there's fear, so there must be danger. And I use this example and I've been on lots of vacations where you're on a lake and you see a high rock 20 feet off the ground, and you see someone standing there. I can't jump. I'm afraid. And why are they afraid? Well, they think there's danger. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, an 8-year-old kid jumps off and jumps right under the water, and there's no danger. That reality for that individual is real. There is real danger and there's real fear. But the question is it ultimately a dangerous situation or not? Mm-hmm. And I think when it comes to buying houses, you have to actually kind of understand what's real and what's not real. And if you have a lot of emotion, you want to feel it, you want to understand it, but you really want to make sure that it doesn't drive your decisions or drive your behavior. Mm-hmm. And certainly what you don't want to do is bring that emotion into the next scenario.
Right.
You want to bring the experience and the learning and the knowledge.
Right.
But emotions like fog on a glass. You don't always know that it's there, but it will definitely cloud your vision. Fear causes you to misinterpret your own self and your own abilities as well as the situation.
Yeah. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break, and we have a lot of good stuff for you. You could tell here if you've been engaged and listening, this is good stuff, exciting stuff. Maybe it is for me. It is for me.
It always is for me.
If you have any questions for Dave or me, 1-800-516-1220, 1-800-516-1220, or you could text 408-838-9060. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. We'll be back with the live portion in a couple of minutes. Stick with us on Facebook. We'll continue that live feed. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
The world is changing, and so is real estate. It's changing in ways that give consumers more control with more affordable options. So what are your options? Hi, this is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. I've been on the air educating and informing consumers for over 7 years now. I'm excited to announce that there is now a more efficient and cost-effective way to buy and sell real estate. Our team at Real Estate Radio Live is launching a new program designed to help buyers or sellers like you in real estate, lending and title. That's right, we'll coordinate the entire transaction for you. So you benefit by working with the same team, saving time and saving money. We'll guarantee you'll not only be working with the most qualified, hand-picked experts in real estate, lending, and title, but you will also save a significant amount of money in all three services as well. Act now and benefit from changing the world of real estate. Call 408-838-9060. Go to RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your host for Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. I have in studio today, my guest is Dave Rossi, is an achievement coach. We're having a conversation today about the emotions, the decisions, fear, the kind of things that go through a person's mind, spirit, soul, however you want to talk about it. Dave is an expert at this, and what I mean by that is he's been studying a long time. He lives it himself. If you missed the first segment, talked a little bit about his experience, his transformation. And the idea today is we're really trying to use it in a theme of how this works or how this comes up or surfaces when you're buying a home, making a huge financial decision. People hear that all the time. You know, I've heard that thousands of times. You know, what do people do, or why do we need a professional? Why do we need people to help? Well, it's because it's one of the biggest financial decisions people make. But along with that financial decision, I think when we talk about that, Dave, and we say this is a huge financial decision, I don't think many of us stop and think how that affects people emotionally and personally. We think of, yes, big mortgage, big payments, big obligations, but how does that really affect you as a person in your decision making, in your fear? How do you prepare for those things, I guess?
Well, we talked about it a little bit in the last segment about how fear kind of enters the conversation. Mm-hmm. And we didn't go into a lot of detail, and maybe I can go into some of that now.
Yeah, that'd be great.
maybe think of it like this. You have an application running in your phone, and maybe you have an application running in your head. And that application is, I want to buy this house. And I have an offer, and I have a contract, and I'm dealing with this. And that application is running, and it's running I'm using some memory. Well, the second fear enters, you just open a second app. Okay, now those two apps are running. And then what happens with fear is that it starts opening other apps. Oh, my wife's going to be upset, or it's too expensive, or what am I going to think at work? Oh, people at work, this is a big house. They're going to like me. So now all of a sudden you start diverting your attention from the real objective, which is buying this house, making a good deal, making something that works. And again, emotion is part of that decision.
Sure.
I really like this lot. It's emotionally pleasing to me. That's not what I'm talking about. It's more about these additional apps of fear. Can I afford this? Hey, people are going to think I'm great if I have this house. And now all these other apps are running. And what it does is it diminishes your intelligence level on focusing on what you're really trying to accomplish. And for example, you start trying to address how you're going to get your significant other to agree to this, whether it's your husband or your wife. Oh my God, what am I going to have to do now? Take them to Carmel, or take them somewhere, or buy them a car, or, oh, honey, I have to tell you can't buy a car now because I need to buy this house, or whatever it is. The point is you have more and more apps running and you lose focus. So earlier when I said, fear creates a situation where you have less intelligence or causes you to misjudge a situation. Some of it is you just have too much fog in your glass, but also you have too many apps running and your intelligence is being diminished because of these other apps.
Yeah. And isn't it most of us, unless we are gifted or graced with some kind of skill or ability early on, most of us are challenged with these things until it's brought to our attention and we put time and energy into making. Isn't that the truth, you think? And what are your thoughts there?
No, absolutely it is. And let me just add one more thing to the last question. You hear a lot of people say they're a disciplined investor.
Yes.
Okay. Those people have trained themselves not to let fear enter.
Good point.
And so for people who are new at this and they want to be a disciplined investor, what does that really mean? You hear about it and you hear people talk about it and I want to be a disciplined investor, but that just means you're going to try really hard to focus. But inevitably, people don't realize that fear, and again, let's talk about fear, any kind of uneasiness or negativity or decisions that you're having to make or contemplations you're having to apply that take away from the deal is kind of what I'm talking about. And I think what happens is people have a steady stream of thoughts in their head. And those thoughts are, what are people going to think? What is my significant other going to think? What are people at work going to think? What are my parents going to think? Whatever those stream of thoughts are, people think those thoughts are actually them. You take those thoughts into India or Afghanistan or Japan or China or impoverished areas, those thoughts sound ridiculous because those thoughts are exclusively thoughts that pertain to your microclimate. And when you begin to realize that some of those thoughts are pressures of society, pressures of other people, keeping up with the Joneses, and you realize those thoughts aren't actually yours, they're thoughts of pressure in society, hopefully you can set them aside and try to make a really sound decision.
Yeah. As you said that a minute ago, what automatically came to my mind? I'm a huge fan. I love, one of my favorite shows is Shark Tank. So they get, when you said disciplined investors, I thought about them right away because when you watch that show, you see people come on and pitch their idea. In many cases, some of them are very emotional. They went through something, they want to share it with them. And you could see they may be sympathetic, but they always come back to it's about the numbers. This is not emotional. This is a business. It's got to make money. It's got to make sense. So that kind of, my thought process is sometimes painting a picture for people. And I hear that all the time, as you just mentioned with real estate investors and a lot of people. How many times do we hear it's all about the numbers, right? Don't get too excited about. Look at the numbers. Keep going back to the numbers.
It is, and being someone that has bought real estate, I think their emotions are running high. And I want to stress that don't exclude the emotions that make you happy, and don't exclude the emotions that make your heart happy with a purchase. Those have a value. Yeah. Those values should only be limited to what you can actually do with the numbers. Yeah. Don't let those emotions go too far to take you out of your comfort zone. Talking a little bit more about the person on top of the rock jumping into the water, you have to decide whether your comfort zone is the person on top that won't jump or the kid that comes in and jumps. Right. Just because you feel fear doesn't mean there's actually danger. Just because you feel like you can't afford it or just because you feel like you can afford it doesn't mean you actually can or can't. You look back at these two individuals, the person paralyzed who won't jump and the kid who will. The reality is still the same. Ultimately, it's safe.
Yeah.
But the relative reality for that child and the relative reality for that person is different. And so when you can try to put aside the fear or put aside the feeling of danger and try to create a situation where you have ultimate truth, like the kid did, then you can make better decisions and decide what to do.
Yeah. And do you think, too, let me put this, because some people will say this, and you've heard this probably a lot. Oh, Joe, I just wear my emotions on my sleeve, and I'm just an emotional person. I cry at this and cry at that. And again, I say this as an example, not as a bad thing. But my point is to you, Dave, is that so when someone says something like that, hey, this is the way I am, and this is the way I'll always be, what would be your response to something like that?
That's their choice.
Yeah.
People have a choice, and I think it takes a lot of discipline. And some of the things that I teach is how to control those emotions. Emotions are good. Don't let me scare anyone away. That those are really important to understand. The difference is when they affect your behavior. Yeah. The difference is when they make you do decisions and drive you to decisions that ultimately make your life worse. And the emotions are important because they're tied to your heart and they're tied to what's important to you. But you also want to make the best out of every situation. Right. And when they create negative energy, you're just giving moments away of negative thoughts or negative ideas and negative moments, when every moment in your life you're going to want back. Right. And so, I teach people to try to understand how to control those thoughts and how to control those emotions.
Very good. All right, we have about a minute or so left here in this segment. So what I'm going to do is Dave's going to be a part of a couple different events here. I want to get the information out. So next Thursday, let me see if I get this. So next Thursday on the 11th from 1:30 to 3:30, you will be along with others at the Campbell Community Center. And 1:30 to 3:30, it is absolutely free. It's at the Orchard City Room in the Campbell Community Center. It's a great event. There's going to be some legal advice. There's going to be Dave talking a little bit about what he does and his achievement coach, and there's going to be much more information. But if you're interested in going, again, it's free. I would highly encourage you to go. You could come. What's the best way? Contact you, 408-838-2571.
888-2571.
Okay, 888, I'm sorry, 2571. And we'll give out some more information here in the next couple of minutes. And when I come back, we're going to talk more. In addition, we're going to talk a little bit about another event that Dave's going to be part of. We'll share when I come back. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Stick with us. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
Hi, this is Joe Kuchera, host of Real Estate Radio Live and Bay Area Mortgage Planner. In addition to being your home financing expert, please remember you could always contact me for other trusted advisors such as realtors, financial planners, and CPAs. Please feel free to contact me at 408-838-9060. That's 408-838-9060, or email joe at RERadiolive.com, or visit my website at RERadiolive.com for more details.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your host for Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. We have in studio, our guest today is Dave Rossi. He's an achievement coach. We're talking about some of the emotions that go into, purchasing real estate, making decisions, and how these emotions affect your life. It's a bigger picture than that. Dave helps people in many different ways deal with a lot of these types of things, and it's over and above real estate, but we wanted to relate it to real estate because this is a really big decision. So what we find in this business, people get very emotional. You lose out on an offer, you lose out on a house, you think, oh my God, the world is over. And I'm not trying to be funny or sarcastic about that. You feel that way sometimes. So the idea is, why is that, and how could you really change some of these behaviors, Dave? Because one of the things that most of us know when we dig deep and we understand what some of these behaviors are doing to us, in many cases, most of us would admit I don't like it, or it's not good, or I want to try to change this. Now, doing it's another thing, but but the whole concept, right? Acknowledging it's the first thing, right?
Right.
So before we jump back in, let me just remind you again, there's a great event coming up here next week. Dave's going to be part of it. It's from 1:30 to 3:30. It's at the Campbell Community Center. It is absolutely free. I would encourage you to go out, join them. For more information, there's a couple of things you could do. Go to daverossiglobal.com. That's DaveRossiglobal.com. Or you could also give them a call, 408-888-2571. It's 1:30 to 3:30 next Thursday at the Campbell Community Center, and you won't be disappointed. If you want more information about it, again, those are the two places. And if you happen to catch this on a podcast, I always like to make sure people know. So podcast, you could always contact me. Most of you guys know 408-838-9060 or through my website. And if you happen to miss the contact or more information, we could guide you along that way. So Dave, I want to kind of jump back in, finish up what we were talking about, but also what are some of the things that maybe easily described that you could help people with that are maybe struggling with some of this stuff, of course, related to real estate or not related to real estate? They're all tied together. What are some of the things that you would say that, gosh, I could help people in these areas?
Well, as I said, some of the people that I regularly see, friends of mine, kind of push me into this. And I think that the thing that I'm really trying to teach is what I call the one imperative habit.
Right.
And I call it a habit because you just can't change the way you kick a soccer ball overnight. I mean, if you're right-footed and you kick right-footed, you just can't all of a sudden switch and go left-footed. You actually have to make it a practice and a habit. And it does take some time. Most people don't even know where to begin or what to do. Some of the people that really push me into this are people that went to seminars, read books, 20 years, going to seminars and reading books, and it never really sticks. And it's kind of, and I can sympathize with that. Prior to me kind of really making this really huge transformation, I would read quotes and say, that's a really great quote.
Yeah.
And then a couple of days later, what did that quote say again?
Yeah.
Where did that quote go? I would look for it and I'd try to find it. But when you really transform and kind of get your ego or your authentic self under control, these quotes actually mean something to you, and you can remember them because they're kind of hit to the core and you kind of understand it. And it's back to what I said, you yourself kind of obstructs yourself. And when you stop obstructing yourself, a lot of doors open, a lot of clarity becomes presented to you. And the one imperative habit is really about getting that under control and learning what that is and learning what the practice is and learning what the habit is to really control yourself. And I don't mean that in a sense that you're trying not to eat pizza and create willpower. Sure. I'm trying to make that a sense that there's habits and practices that you can do that, again, become effective ways of communicating. One of the first things I can tell people, and it's often extremely misunderstood, and I think Brene Brown really pushes this, if any of your listeners have read her books, actually Dr. Brene Brown, is vulnerability. I mean, people look at vulnerability as a weakness when in fact it's one of the strongest things you can do is show vulnerability. And to be vulnerable is to not be afraid of the outcome. Have a tough conversation with your significant other, hey, we lost this house. And be able to have that conversation and not be afraid of the outcome. And also to hear that news and not be afraid of the outcome. Right. Because the outcome makes, when you're not in check and you do have fear for the outcome, you're going to react emotionally or negatively, and that might go in a different direction. So I think for people, there's lots of literature out there, and I don't think you can really apply these quotes or these books or these lessons unless you really, really understand how to control your authentic self and what that even means, and how to be that.
Yeah. One of the other things you and I talked about, and I'm a huge believer in, and I'm not saying I practice it on a regular basis, but aren't we the ones that get in our way? I mean, yeah, I know it's not that simple, but for those I always tease, okay, it's enough, quit blaming your parents, your coach, your teacher, your whatever, right? I mean, at one point, we have to, individuals.
Yeah.
How am I going to change? What am I going to do to take control of my life?
Well, Wayne Dyer, who always is famous for saying this quote, and I think it was a Native American quote, that no tree grows branches to block the growth of others. And we tend to do that over and over and over again as we get in our own way of our own branches growing. And we do make choices. The problem is we make choices unconsciously. I ask people what it means to be present, and people hear these words like being present and being conscious. People think being present means you turn your cell phone off and you're really, really focused. To me, what being present means is you are your true authentic self, and you turn the thoughts off in your head, you turn off the fear, you are vulnerable, and you do accept things for the way that they are, and you can apply the real you. The present you is present, not the you that has a steady stream of thoughts of what you need to do or what you have to do or what society tells you have to have, but the real you that was born at one day old, that was not affected by all of these other things, just the purity of who you are. And that, to me, is what being present is. And that's the choice people have to make to go be. That's being conscious, that's being awake, and that's being present.
Yeah, that's great. For anyone that wants to contact you or wants more information, you might be able to help them. Who knows? There's all kinds of different things potentially they could do. What's the best way to contact you?
I think the website, DaveRossiGlobal.com. We have some events, we have some seminars. For some people, everybody's on a spiritual path, whether they believe it or not. If you're an agnostic, you're on a path. The path is you're just there. Everyone has their own path. And I think also everyone has a puzzle to put together in their life. I meet people who are very advanced in putting their puzzle pieces together. I'm still putting mine together. I'm in a different place than somebody else. I learn a lot every single day. But if I can give people puzzle pieces, or I can help people put other parts of their puzzle together, God bless them and God bless me, and vice versa. And I think we're all on this earth together. And the better and happier place we can make it for each other and ourselves, it's just better for all of us.
Well said. Do you also, what helped me personally is when there was this thought early on, I think years ago, I thought, okay, if I finally do enough reading, therapy, discussions, personal growth, whatever, I'll finally get there. But do you ever get there? Is it a journey? Does that journey ever end if you're really true to yourself? In other words, does the continual learning and education and trying to be yourself, be one, all these things, is it your belief that is a ongoing journey and that never really stops? You don't really ever get there?
Well, I think two things. I think there's hurdles. I think there's plateaus. I think for me, I made this huge transformation, and I got to a certain place, and I read books, and I practiced these things, and I really, really got some of my authentic self under control, my fears under control, and really became vulnerable to lots of things. And then I went back and read some books, and they were a completely different book. The second time I read it, when I kind of got these under control, and it was amazing how much more I got from these books from a position of only one application running versus 10 applications running in my head.
I see.
You're really able to focus on the words that people write, and your learning becomes a lot easier. Some of these studies that I had would say you had a higher level of intelligence when you were authentically you. And I read these things, and when I actually achieved habits of being my authentic self, it's unbelievable how they were right. Your intelligence really does become, I didn't get smarter, I just have more clarity and less applications running in my head, so to speak.
Yeah, that's interesting. A little less than 2 minutes left. I'll start it now, and then I want to continue a little bit, because there's this, you and I were talking too, there is this fear in general too around just money. We've talked about real estate transactions and the biggest purchase of your life and all that thing, but money in general, there's a reason why less than 10% of people are prepared for retirement. There's a reason why less than 10% of people have $10,000 in their account. I don't know those numbers are exact, but it's pretty low. There's a big fear and kind of anxiety around just this thought of money too, isn't there?
Well, I think there is. I tell a lot of people, if I gave you a magic lantern that gave you all the money you wanted, or a magic lantern that gave you happiness under any situation, loss or disparity, you were happy. 100% of the times people pick the lantern of happiness. And I think the ego drives desire, and it drives wants. And so when you want more and you have to buy more, people don't have a lot of savings because their ego is driving what they have to have. That's a good point. Any attachment to anything is essentially ego, because if you know yourself as a human by what you have, when you don't have, you feel less. And most people kind of operate in their ego where they're wanting to buy things and buy fancier clothes, which is great. Don't get me wrong. Sure. I'm not saying it's not. Yeah. But when it begins to define you or begins to make you make bad choices, then you waste money when you really shouldn't.
All right, we're going to take our last break. It's going fast because it's so good. If you have any questions for Dave, it's a couple minutes left in the last segment. 1-800-516-1220 if you want to give us a call. 1-800-516-1220. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back and finish up the show. We'll be back with you in just a couple minutes.
For more information on today's program, visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com.
The world is changing, and so is real estate. It's changing in ways that give consumers more control with more affordable options. So what are your options? Hi, this is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. I've been on the air educating and informing consumers for over 7 years now. I'm excited to announce that there is now a more efficient and cost-effective way to buy and sell real estate. Our team at Real Estate Radio Live is launching a new program designed to help buyers or sellers like you in real estate, lending and title. That's right, we'll coordinate the entire transaction for you. So you benefit by working with the same team, saving time and saving money. We'll guarantee you'll not only be working with the most qualified, hand-picked experts in real estate, lending, and title, but you will also save a significant amount of money in all three services as well. Act now and benefit from changing the world of real estate. Call 408-838-9060. Go to reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com. Again, your host for Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Our guest today, Dave Rossi, is an achievement coach. We're talking about how emotions, fear, different things get in the way of making decisions. Specifically, we're tying it to real estate. We talked a little bit about money. The idea is these things affect our life. We're relating them to real estate because it is a big purchase. It is a big decision. But let's face it, fear is one of the most paralyzing things there is in life. There's other things I know, and there's reasons why, but boy, that's the one thing I understood or have a better understanding is that when you have this fear of no matter what it is or what part of your life is paralyzing emotionally, physically. The other part of this, Dave, that we all know by now because of the study and the research, what this does to our health, right? When we're bottled up, fearful of something, it just got us paralyzed or wrapped up in chains, the manifestation that happens to your health and your well-being.
No, that's a really good point. You know, there was an old Greek philosopher named Epictetus who said it's not events that make you unhappy, it's your belief in those events that make you unhappy. And people get wrapped up in fear and wrapped up in paralyzed, and they have a lot of negative emotions because they're upset or they're unhappy. That event didn't cause them to be unhappy. For example, if you have a significant other that leaves a towel on the floor, the event that that towel is on the floor isn't upsetting. It's that you believe that towel shouldn't be there. That's upsetting. Or you believe that your spouse or your significant other will pick it up and not leave it there. That's upsetting. But the event itself is not actually what causes you to be upset or unhappy. And I think you can relate that story to any aspect of your life. Any negativity that you have is ultimately a belief. Yeah. And your beliefs get ingrained at a very young age. You choose what beliefs to have. Mm-hmm. And lots of times beliefs sabotage you. Yeah. I think for me, even... I've lost like 50 pounds, basically. Yeah. And even now, I can't quite get rid of the last little spare tire along my waist. And I'll go to a restaurant and I'll say, you know what, I'm going to have dessert because I can't lose that 10 pounds anyway, so might as well have the dessert. There you go. That's a belief that's actually sabotaging getting rid of that tire because if I just believe I can, then I probably wouldn't eat the dessert, Yeah. And so I think these beliefs really cause a lot of problems in our life and cause a lot of sabotage. Yeah, definitely.
Good point. Well, we got a couple minutes left. One thing I want to, before we leave is, so how does a person kind of take the first step? Because I'm a big believer in, most of us go, God, I need to lose the weight, or I want to get rid of this fear, or I want to change the way I approach this or think about this. what would your suggestion be, maybe the first one or two things to a person that going, yeah, I do need to make some changes. What do I do? Like, what's the first couple steps? What would you recommend?
Well, I think for most people in their lives, when they have a situation, they're sick, they hurt their arm or they have an earache, they go to the doctor. If you have a money issue, you go to a financial analyst. If you have a legal issue, you go to a lawyer. And for a lot of people, if they have, mental health issues, and I don't mean they're, sick or anything, but I mean just frustrating things that life imposes on them, they go see a counselor or a psychologist. And some of this coaching that we're talking about, you hear that word a lot, is really kind of new. And I think you have to go see somebody and talk to somebody who's a professional or someone that understands this. I think there's a lot of new information that's kind of coming out about how the brain works. Dr. Bruce Lipton is somebody, he's not a doctor, but Rob Williams is somebody that really focuses on new ways of approaching things. And I think people have to get out there and get information. Certainly what I'm trying to teach is a collection of these things that has worked for me that I can apply. You yourself, Joe, are an excellent resource. I mean, I think I don't possess anything more than anybody else except that I've lived this and I've gone through this and I can relate my experiences, which gives people a lot of comfort. I've shepherded across that water, and I can tell you where the deep end is and where exactly. Yeah. And certainly for a lot of people that I see, I get them started and I get them on a path and I give them some tips. So that's what I'm here to do, and I think that's people have to go learn. Yeah,
that's great. Well, before we go to one more time, best place to reach you if someone wants to get a hold of you, the website.
Yep, www.daverossyglobal.com.
Very good. And before we check out today, too, be sure, if you can, this is next Thursday, the 11th. It's at the Campbell Community Center. Dave will be there along with his brother, ironically. We'll be talking about some legal. His brother's the attorney. We'll be talking about some legal stuff. But 1:30 to 3:30 at the Campbell Community Center, and it's at the Orchard City Room. If you want more information, you can go to daverossyglobal.com. And I would suggest that if you can, try to make it. Reach out to Dave if you have any questions, if you think he could help any other way. So this is good stuff. We have a minute or so left, and I want to thank you for coming in today. And if you'd like, maybe every month or so we could have you back, and we could talk about different dynamics. And there's a lot of this is just really, to me, kind of scratching the surface of this, right? In terms of this is related to real estate. We talked a little bit about this. I kind of set the stage, but there's so many aspects of people's life. I know we started talking about money, but money is another real big fear thing in people's life.
Well, people always say when they lose a lot of money or they lose their house, I'm losing my life. My life has been lost. Well, it hasn't. Your life is life. You are life. Yeah. You may have worsened your life situation temporarily, but I firmly believe this, and I'm a testament to this. With any misfortune, there is a lining of good fortune. And in our lives, we never really know what is good or bad because things change so much. And anytime something bad happens, something good is likely to happen around the corner. And I firmly believe that. And I think you have to open the channels to that happening. You have to be open to life and open to happiness, and those things will happen for you.
Yeah, very good. All right. Again, if anybody wants to contact Dave, the best place to do that is daverossyglobal.com. For more information, you could always go to reradiolive.com. Remember, we're with you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, from 3 to 4. Be sure to download the podcast. You could do that at iTunes or reradiolive.com. This is Joe Kuchera of the Real Estate Radio Live. Thanks again for tuning in today. We'll be back with you on Monday. Have a wonderful, safe weekend. Take care.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com. Tune in, log in, download our podcast. Discover more at reradiolive.com. reradiolive.com.